Hi, Jeanette. Pleasure to see you.
Oh, well, thank you, Adam. It's always a pleasure to be here. What we found out that we like to do is open the door to all sorts of different topics. And between the two of us, we have enough differences to keep things spicy and interesting. And yet at the same time, we have a lot of agreement, which we find delightful because on paper, we're a little bit on the different side of things, generationally speaking, genderly, but we have an awful lot in common and we've made a friendship. So we thought we'd share it.
Indeed, we have. So, just in case this is for probably mom and my wife, I've been a life coach now for 3 years. Before that, I kind of bounced around. I did nothing. I was diagnosed with um, ADHD and epilepsy at 38 years old, and spent a couple of years kind of unboxing that. And I've spoken to countless people along the way. And I was lucky enough to meet you, and immediately, immediately, I found a kindred spirit. And it is
Mhm.
every time we sit down and talk, which at this point is every Tuesday and has been for the last, I don't know,
Uh,
2 months, two and a half
yeah,
months.
yeah.
And our conversations are enjoyable enough for me that I would like to share them with other people and hope that they find the same interesting, possibly expanding thoughts that we go through.
Yeah, yeah, no, you nailed it. I also am a life coach, and I'm just new to it. I took the schooling last year. We're both members, proud members at the Canada Coach Academy. And we're both pretty passionate about coaching, helping people move past their difficulties in life. And I think of coaching kind of like that person that gives you the leg up on the horse, helps you get up, get you to where you want to go. But I'm firmly in the mind space, I guess, as a fellow traveler. I've had my own difficulties in life. I've had certainly my own diagnosis with mental health and so forth. I spent 7 years before I went into life coaching. I kind of hung up my boots on delivering dialectical behavior therapy to people experiencing uh, drug and alcohol problems and mental health difficulties. And boy, oh boy, what I always just come down to is there, for the grace of God, go I.
Yeah,
Like that was such a big eye opener for me, my years doing that, that I'd love to share some of the stuff I learned along the way and, unbox it, like you say, unbox it and unpack it a little bit. And I see life coaching as a logical extension to that. Like, I don't see them, although they are a different expertise, they aim at the same thing, which is improving mental health, making your life better, and putting you in the driver's seat. That's how I see it.
yeah, a little bit of introspection, not forced introspection, but
No.
introspection. Kind of looking at what's getting in your way, which more often than not is yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
ICF certified, and Jeanette here
Wonderful.
is soon to be ICF certified. So we both very much care just about other people. We're here to help. And I just want to throw out there that I think it's wonderful that you've already been doing this for so long. And I can't even imagine how many lives you've not only touched, but made significantly better because of your ability not just to listen, but to comprehend and empathize. I count myself as one of the lucky few, lucky many, as it were.
Oh, thank you, Adam, because you're right. That's what you and I do share is just a deep empathy and caring for others. And it's funny that you like anything you do in your life and then you stop doing it. And then for years, maybe realize little things about it and have realizations. And I'm here to say, like, people like you are good medicine in and of yourself. And then you add the training, you know how to apply it a little more, what would be the word, efficiently.
Professionally.
Yeah, professionally, in a professional way, of course. Like one of the things coaching does share with therapy is that everything you say will not be shared. Confidentiality is bedrock. I used to joke that even before I ever took psychology or anything like that, that you, if somebody told me something in confidence, you could waterboard me and you won't get it out of me. Right? And that goes, that's a commonality. Life coaches offer a service where what you say is held in strict confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely is. And ironically, bringing up how our training has wandered through, it brings up today's topic because I going to CCA and having that year was probably one of the best investments in me that I have ever
Yes.
made.
Yes.
Because as somebody who suffers severely from ADHD, the concept
Yeah.
of sitting down and listening and just being with somebody and actively hearing them and being able to engage without throwing my own thoughts, my own opinions, my own jokes
Mm-hmm.
or metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
I took classes before I joined CCA, and it wasn't until I got there and had the time to practice, to sit down with other people. And there isn't another place that I can imagine where you get to sit down and practice just being present for somebody else. Um, and that you can go and see all the therapists you want and talk about CBT and try and sit at home and meditate. But somebody whose brain fires the way that mine does, without those hours of practice, and it takes 100 hours to get your ACC. Uh, I would I would never have been able to do this job as well as I do now. I hope I do it well, um, but yeah. So that brings us to today's topic, which is uh, ADHD and neurodivergent, and how it affects us, how we look at it, how far it's spreading, how it's affecting culture, and so in that vein, with your long experience, how do you see ADHD and how it's kind of emerging very quickly in today's society?
Well, I'm really happy that ADHD has come out of the closet, right? But first of all, I just want to say one thing. You just pumped my tires. And I want to say to everybody out there that might be listening that Adam's sense of presence, I think that's why it gives me joy to talk with him. He's absolutely beautifully present for whomever he's talking to. And so, um, and that is a gift in and of itself. I almost cried one time when I read that when you truly listen to another person, like you say, park judgment, park everything that you're thinking, and truly just listen and be present, it's as close to love as we'll ever get.
And I do love you, so there.
Yeah, and I love you. And you said one time to me, I asked you, I said, who who can you remember that was present for you? And you remembered one person and you got a little teary, right? So that's
I
a
do
gift
remember
that
that.
I think you had, and the Canada Coach Academy helped you unwrap it. So, all right, into the neurodivergency thing. How that you set us a really big task, and I don't think we'll get through all of what you put there. But just what I see, I'll just quickly reference. my years in addiction services was you really saw the landscape change. So people came in and they were unhappy with what they termed their alcoholism. And then, so we get to work on that. And then, of course, we learned over time that there was different things running in the background, right? If you think of alcoholism, which by the way is a misnomer, but as the tip of the iceberg, what's running in the background? What's going on? So one thing, for example, that came out and we doubled down on it was pain issues, just people with a sore back or a sore leg or something that they couldn't sleep. So a little bit of alcohol, hey, I sleep better. Then next thing you know, shoot, it's a lot of alcohol. So not to make it more simple than it is, but these are the little clues that you start to pick up with every person's story. And another one was ADD. 40% of people with addictions have what we call for now attention deficit disorder. So then we start to pay deep attention to that. And this is where we can start teasing it apart. And this is where you're the expert. If we took any child with a normal, what we would call a normal brain architecture, and started to treat them like they're a little bit dumb, and start to punish them for wiggling around a lot, which by the way is normal.
For children, especially.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? And you will quickly develop a person's internal sense of self as a negative thing. So
Yes.
ADD kids generationally have had that in spades.
Yeah.
And so is it the ADD as much as the social
Hmm.
conceptualization of a child who presents a little bit differently, right? And now you have shared with me beautifully about how you felt as a child, knowing kids aren't dumb. I'm sitting here and I'm different.
Um, well, and I can actually add a second tier to that. So self-medication is now kind of what it's called, and
Yes, absolutely.
I was I suppose, now a recovering alcoholic. Did not realize that
Oh,
I drank mm, all day, every day. My first job was at a nightclub, and then I came out and I was a bouncer at a bar, and then um, was a bartender, and then managed a liquor store. So the vast majority of my life, I was kind of surrounded by booze, and I was a very energetic, social drunk. Everybody quite enjoyed Drunk Adam, and so did I. What I didn't recognize is that I liked him more than I liked me. Um,
oh
but when
dear.
I was a kid, I remember I remember finding marijuana for the first time, and it was the first time that the rambling multiple voices, the side quests, the look out the window, look at the color of this person's pencil case,
Mhm.
what are the teacher's shoes, the never ending influx of external sources that I was constantly taking in. I got high for the first time, and that went away. And I can see, to me, it makes sense why so many people have ADD, who have ADD, have addictions, because it starts with self-medication. Especially, I was diagnosed much later in life, and trying to do it, to your point, trying being a child and going through the system the way that it was, because I was born in 83, and it was still a stigma to have ADD or ADHD. And I think if you are between grade 1 and grade 12, somebody with ADHD hears an average of 10,000 more negative comments than other children. Sit down, be quiet, you're doing it wrong. Where's your homework? Why aren't you living up to your potential? Uh, Ironically, my dad's nickname for me was Dummy. That didn't help. Uh,
Oh,
so there was like a constant influx of being reiterated that I wasn't that I wasn't good enough. But potential to me is still like it bugs me. It bugs me to no end because potential is somebody else telling you what they could do in your position, and
mm,
they don't comprehend how you think or what's going through your mind. So as a kid, I self-medicated
mhm.
heavily. There's caffeine is a big one. Stimulants have the opposite effect of people with ADHD than other people. So if you started drinking coffee when you were in grade 8, let's say, other people could drink 3 in a day. Somebody with ADHD could drink 8. They could drink 2 cups
Yes.
of coffee before bed and then go to sleep. And
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
how? Uh, and so, yes, I can see the direct correlation between addiction um, and self-medication. And self-medication over a long enough period becomes addiction. And even after you find a diagnosis, the habit is so heavily built in that giving it up, it's hard. Uh, it's hard.
Is yeah.
So
Doubly so when you've got all that. And no, again, I think that this candid and authentic sharing that you do, I really believe will be helpful to some people, because I'm a little bit surprised. All this kind of stuff, because I worked with it, is quite normal to me, right? Like someone with ADHD, and maybe they developed an alcohol use disorder, say. I just see it as completely normal, and because why wouldn't they, in a way? And people still, like you say, a stigma to have ADHD, and then stigma about the medications. And that paradoxical thing that you talk about, where people can drink coffee in grade 8 and then go to sleep, is that paradoxical thing. And that's why the stimulants help work with ADHD. And I've seen again and again and again judici judicious use of the medication gives people their lives back. And then therapy to help kind of untangle what went on before, like that number you threw out there, 10,000 more negative messages, is astonishing, and it's terrible, and it hurts my heart to even hear that any child would be subjected to such a thing. It really does. Like, are we surprised when this person, right?
fun.
Why are we surprised?
Here's a fun side note. If you have ADHD, you
Mhm.
have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Yeah.
But if you are a gifted student, then they don't call you gifted with ADHD. They call you twice extraordinary. So if you have one, you have a disorder.
Oh,
But if you have the other, you're extraordinary. And I unfortunately was one of those kids. So I heard
okay.
potential so often. You're so smart. You can read a book in what would take the other kids, 3, 4 weeks. You can read in a day, but you can't. Why don't you just sit down and read it? And I can't was not a valid answer.
Of course not.
And so that was like that was just a constant reiteration. And for whatever reason, my late diagnosis meant that, like you said, untangling all of that's what I hope to do as a coach. That's who I hope to touch, get involved in, is the people that have been diagnosed later in life, because untangling that knot, your sense of self, from your symptoms is incredibly difficult. Therapy
Right.
therapy is highly recommended if you really struggle with it, and I am good at helping people through it because I went through it. And the more I learned, the more I was like, that's me. That's that's not a core trait of who I am. That's a symptom. It's it's not that I'm overly sensitive. That's how my brain works. I'm not
Right.
rejection dysphoria is a thing. I do take things harder than other people, even when they're not meant to be. And so being able to share that with somebody who has been struggling, who isn't even aware that that's a symptom, like anything, you cannot address the issue until you are aware that it's an issue at all.
Well said. Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. Like life coaches get trained um, to help people overcome what you're saying is limiting beliefs, right? So, hey, maybe I want to go back to school, but oh yeah, I'm just a dummy, like your father said. Well, that was helpful. Good
Yeah,
grief, right? Or I want to open my own business, but oh, I've got ADD. I can't do things like that. So coaches again give you that leg up past your own limiting beliefs. And maybe you're getting messages from your family or your friends or your whomever saying, "Yeah, I don't know if you should do that. That might be a little bit too much for you." And we help kind of wade past that kind of stuff and get clear about what you want to do going forward with your life, because that's what it's all about.
that's the really important part is what do you
Yeah,
want to do with your life? And being
yeah,
able to sit down and talking to each other, what we do is get rid of all the external, um,
yeah,
both for you and I as human beings, but as life coaches as well. You sit down and you get rid of, does it matter what this person thinks? Is that even worth talking about in this hour? Let's focus on what you think. How do you feel about this?
absolutely.
And that introspection is the most powerful tool that human beings have, is the ability to look and find their own answers for themselves. All it takes is somebody to know and recognize the right questions to ask and when, which means you need to find somebody that will listen
Yes,
actively, truly, and with curiosity. Listen and see what you have to say and kind of explore that. And that's that's why I love that's why I love doing what I do. There are these aha moments
mm,
where you can see
yes,
somebody like, oh, so this domino hit this domino, and you can
yeah,
see the line that they just put in, like, 9 times out of 10. There's a reason we call them aha moments, because they people will say out loud, oh, oh my God. And if I could get paid in those, I would. Watching that, that is an immediate, you can see the growth. It's physically obvious that somebody has just taken a massive step forward in recognizing themselves in it. Um,
absolutely.
and
Insight.
any neurodivergent person, in any aspect, autism, ADD, ADHD, um, and I know depression isn't neurodivergent, but like you said, when you dig a little bit deeper under the surface, sad, and I'm not downgrading anything. Sad is, some people suffer from severe chronic depression, um,
Absolutely.
but there's a lot of people that they get sad and they get sad for months, sometimes a year or two, but the
Hmm.
reason that they're sad is not addressed. They're given chemicals
Yeah,
to kind of dumb down their sad, which
yeah,
ironically also dumbs down their happy. But that's a symptom. That is a symptom of. There's
yes.
probably something underlying that, and That's what you did for years, was digging out that, yes, I know that this is a thing, and yes, I know
Yeah.
that it's difficult to stop, but why did we start?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it's a beautiful thing to see somebody get that insight and the ability to move on in life and change some of those internal tapes that have been going on, right? And that doesn't exclude coaches are really good also at, like you say, if I'm noticing, oh boy, we got something, you know, that maybe needs a little addressing by either a therapist or a doctor, then we can incorporate those into the coaching system, right? They all work together synergistically anyway. And I would love it. I love the metaphor of coach, right? There used to be a commercial on TV a few years ago, and it said, be a coach, not a critic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so what do coaches do? And I took a first year university course in management. And one of the things, papers we had to write was somebody who was a really good manager. Well, I was young enough at the time. I really didn't have a lot of managers, like work wise. So I picked my soccer coach,
Ha ha ha.
right? And he was like this crusty, non-PC human, but he was on your side. He loved us girls, us soccer players, and he knew soccer inside and out. So he was effective on two levels. You trusted him to get the best out of you as a human, but he'd also push you to practice harder and to work on your, okay, you're a little weak here. Let's get that left foot going, right? So I think I got a pretty good mark on it, but he was a coach
Yeah, yeah. Instead
right
of
to his bones.
instead of an office manager who would be critical, who would tell you, instead of lifting you up, the some people in authority places put you down. Um, Not even on purpose, like on purpose, because they have to tell you kind of how you're doing at your job. But if the only uh, input they give, if the only thing they tell you is the bad stuff that you're doing, eventually you inherently think you're bad at your job. You think that you're not
Absolutely.
good enough to be there, or you think that your boss hates you. Especially if it was somebody like me. Anytime there was any kind of critical anything, I would just be like, oh, I'm awful at spreadsheets. Like, oh,
Yeah. Oh,
I can't do
yeah.
scheduling,
Yeah.
and it's not true. So I love that you used a soccer coach, and not just his ability to pick you up and kind of push you towards your best, but to recognize your your individual best. And for us as coaches, sometimes we'll hit things where it's like, okay, so in the last 45 minutes, you have said this makes you uncomfortable. Let's look at that. What
Mhm.
about this makes you uncomfortable?
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of difference that it makes, is curious. I'm not telling you what you did wrong. I mean, I'm not sharing my opinion on what you should or
No.
shouldn't do. It's just
Right.
I've noticed a pattern, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but what is it about waking up and going to work, having your giving your child back at the end of a weekend? What is it that makes you, about the situation, what is it that makes you uncomfortable? What is your like worst case scenario here? And I find that's one of the powerful questions that we have as coaches, which we can also use as people. What's the worst case scenario? And really think about that, because like anything, once you are aware of it, once you say it out loud, you deal with it. And I have had 9 out of 10, at least, if not 10 out of 10, okay, 9.5 out of 10. Most people, when they hear their worst case scenario, the follow up is, and how likely do you think that's going to happen? Not at all.
Right. Removing fears. Yeah, and you're hitting on a good point too that I just want to get in there in terms of sort of defining coaching is we're not geared at being blindly supporting you in things. We are trained in holding you appropriately accountable, right? So once we've kind of explored where you want to go, how you're going to get there, our role is to say, yeah, like if you're saying your client wants to start a new business while they're working, but they spend every evening watching 4 hours of TV and not working on their business, our job is to hold a mirror up to that and say, is this helping you get where you want to go? Because I'm curious about that. And
You brought up
so
you feel
we're
bad.
not, yeah, we're not all just, soft hands and lovey-dovey in coaching. Sooner or later, you're going to run into what you've already told us, and we're going to help you remember that and see, refocus on what you're doing.
And that's the difference. And I think that's why you and I get along so well, is that's the difference between a good coach and a not so good coach. Live, laugh, love. It's a wonderful poster, but
Yeah.
that's not where you grow. And this is the part that's difficult. And I think this is the part that's hard to swallow, is that nobody grows from a comfortable place. Growth
No.
comes from discomfort. Because if you were comfortable in all aspects, why would you change anything? So
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense that when you feel uncomfortable, you have somebody at work that you have a small conflict with and you're bothered by them. Cool. You can come and sit with me and talk about them for an hour, but at some point I am gonna ask, what's your role in this? Because
Yeah.
conflict takes two people. So what are you assuming about this other person before you even have a conversation? What is it? What's your worst case scenario if this blows up?
Yeah.
And is
Yeah.
that going to happen? And I'm like, no, it's probably not going to happen. Okay. And so tomorrow when you go to work, what can you do to make yourself a little less uncomfortable? What can you do to kind of build your own space? And oftentimes, especially with conflict management, it's do something nicer, go in objectively, uh, kind of put it down. But in
Yes.
order to get there, you kind of need somebody from the outside to, like you said, show you a mirror and be like, you. It's not just them in the equation. You yourself are a part of this. You have the
Absolutely.
power to do or not do things to make this better for you. And that's the only thing that you can control is
Yeah.
you, how you react.
Yeah, and I think that that brings I was really struck because I was coaching curious too. Like even when I took my coaching course, I really wasn't super clear about what it was and how it works and all the rest of it. And so, as you know, we practice, we have to get this 100 hours in. And so you start coaching each other and you coach family, you coach the dog if you can. And over and over, when people coached me or I coached somebody else, I'd ask them, as we often do, okay, what's the takeaway from today? What are you going to bundle up and take home? And it was clarity, which is wonderful. I would love it. I'd have something that I was like, this is bugging me, or I'm not doing very good at it. Why not? What's in my way? I'd have a coaching session and they'd ask me, they'd say, what are you taking away? I'd say, oh my gosh, clarity. I can just see what I need to be doing and I get it now. It's magic.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And that's one of the things that that's part of the reason that one of our working titles is open the door, because as
Yeah,
coaches, we don't change minds. I'm not going to change your yes to a no. I don't I'm not
no,
going to have that conflict. Well, I'm not here to change a mind. What I'm here to do is shift your perspective. And I use the metaphor of a clock. If you come in and your clock is at 12 o'clock, I'm not going to switch it to 6 o'clock, but I would love to see what you see if you move it to 1.
Yes. Yeah. Increments.
And all of a sudden it opens up and you're like, oh, I mean, you don't say, having a conflict with somebody at work, you don't turn around and say, it's all my fault. I've done all of this. No, you walk away thinking, okay, there's something that I can do. There's something that I have been doing that hasn't been making this better. But now there's something, now I have a clear step forward in what to do to diminish how much this bothers me in the next couple of days. And that, um,
Absolutely.
we're not, we're here to shift perspectives. We're not here to change minds. We're not here to blame. We're not here to coddle. We're we're here to ask questions that you probably haven't thought to ask yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, you're right. And I love that. You were talking earlier about, okay, say there's the difference between, okay, you have sore shoulders and your friend gives you a little shoulder rub versus going to a registered massage therapist that gets in there and solves why you've got sore shoulders. And that's kind of coaching too, is that we want to get, we're not the friend that just sits there and goes, oh, that's too bad, oh, terrible. That's nice to get validated, and it's essential. Actually, validation is essential to human relationships, but it's not, it is what's called not sufficient, right? You need the accountability, you need the clarity, you need the exploration comes up a lot in coaching. Hey, let's explore this, which is exactly what we want to do. Like you say, if you're stuck on 12 o'clock, let's see what 1 looks like and 11 looks like, and just explore that till you can reset your clock to where you want to be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's something that we use very often. Somebody will come in and I like to start my sessions with, how's your heart? Uh, because it gives an immediate, nope, people aren't used to it. And it gives an immediate, honest response because you don't have time. It's not, how are you? How's it
Mm-hmm.
going? It's, how's your heart? And some people it's heavy and they don't realize that it's heavy. And then they'll tell you all of the stuff that's bothering them. And I'll be like, okay, so you brought up 3 buckets there. It's 3 different major things. Which one is the heaviest? Which one would you like to look at
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
today? And kind of single it down to one particular problem that you can look at moving forward. Because trying to, like you said, we're not here for an hour to have a conversation about something massive. We're here to look at one thing that you can take power over, that you can, a habit that you can change, or steps that you can take. And that's what we do, is build strategies, which for me was incredibly, again, one of those things. Somebody that whose brain fires the way that it does, my organizational skills are absolutely atrocious. So sitting down with coaches and being like, okay, um,
Mm,
let's try a to-do list. But on your to-do list, write wake up, get dressed, so that you
right.
immediately can cross something off. And crossing something off a list makes you feel a little bit, it makes you feel like you're
Absolutely.
already moving. And then once you've got some momentum, you move forward. And everybody's strategy for every scenario is a little bit different. So we don't tell people what to do, we help them find what's going to work best for them.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's why I think coaching is now there are specialist coaches, and like for example, if I got a client with ADHD, even though I have prior experience with it, I would send them to you because you've got the lived experience with it, and I'm not up to date on it anymore, right? I took it in grad school, but that was from a different point of view. That's another thing that I find immensely helpful about coaching. It doesn't pathologize, right? We're not in there to go, oh boy, you're sick because um,
Nope, not our
good,
job.
not our job. So a good diagnosis is helpful, but that's just the beginning, right? I think coaching can help build a roadmap forward. Like, okay, I have ADD. Okay, I have depression. Okay, I'm not going anywhere in my company. Why not? Um, you can start to build with the client or through the client what's in them that will enable them to move forward.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah,
had sessions. Again, we don't diagnose, right? I
no,
can't. I'm
no
not. I.
diagnosing.
We do not have the right to diagnose anybody. But if you come in and you tell me 3 sessions in a row that you're struggling with the symptoms of ADD, I'm probably going to ask, have you ever considered getting a diagnosis?
Yeah,
Perhaps that's worth exploring because
yes.
until you have that legit diagnosis, you're self diagnosing, which means you're creating your own instinctive um, defense mechanisms. You're creating excuses
Mhm.
because I have this and it's getting in my way. And so, step number one is, do you have it?
Yeah,
how, how can you feel better about the fact that you think that you have ADD? Well, find out whether or not you have ADD. It makes perfect
it's a
sense.
thing. It could even be not ADD, so you need someone to point that out as well. Um, Absolutely.
And
And
at that
then
point, I would
finding,
send them to somebody who actually can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. It's a good, I remember working with a person and they came into the facility I worked at and they were struggling with quite a bit. And then one day I got this knock on my door, my office door, and I opened it and they were standing there with this big grin on their face. And they said to me, "Look, Jeanette." And I looked and I went, "Hello, yes, you look very good, but what's going on?" And they said, "I'm present." So they came in unaware that they were had ADD and were self-medicating away. The psychiatrist diagnosed and got them on the appropriate medication, and then they were able to focus on their own recovery. And that moment was a moment of joy for me. And coaching can, again, with some people, there might need to be those extra supports, whether it's medication or a therapist or some other thing. But coaching takes you from that moment and goes, okay, what do you want to do with that? What are we going to do with this now?
Yeah.
And start undoing some of those old tapes too. So I'm happy to report that person went back to university to get a degree in business, I think. And it was just a joy to watch this person blossom and come into their more fullness of being, right? And back to your word potential. I
Mm.
don't know if they met their potential. Who cares? What they met was their own life and saw themselves in a more positive and healthy way. Was that maybe potential? Who the heck cares?
What what could be better? And so
Yes,
here's a different discussion. We could have an entire thing just on the word potential. Um, is your potential something you could do? Is it academic? Is it financial? Or is it as a human being? Because we all have potential. Sure, I have potential to make a ton of money. Sure, I have potential to go get a master's degree. But how many people focus on the potential to be a better human, to be a little bit more
absolutely.
empathetic, or be a little bit more aware uh, of the situation that somebody else is in, or be more present, or be, to work to work on you to, and that's something that comes up all the time, is a lot of the problems that people come in with, the core part of it is, I don't like me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at that. What can
Yeah.
we do to change that? What habit can we build? Wake up in the morning and have a self admiration. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you're a good person. There's a chair exercise that I'm going to share that I probably shouldn't, because we should do it in sessions, but here we are. You set up 3 chairs, and in the first chair, you talk to yourself. They're physical chairs, they have to be physical chairs, and you say out
Absolutely.
loud um, the way that you feel about you, as if you're sitting in chair number 2, and you hear yourself and your tone and your language, and then you move and sit in chair number 2. And chair number 2 will tell you, chair number 1,
Right.
how that made you feel,
Yes.
how hurtful it was, how the what that brought up, the guilt, the shame. And then from there, when you're done crying, you move into chair number 3. Uh, and chair number 3, because you've gotten out a little bit of the anger and a little bit of the hurt, chair number 3 looks at it objectively and will look at chair number 1 and say, now, why would you do this? Would you speak to somebody else the way that you speak to yourself? How did it feel to say what you said out loud to yourself? Do
Yeah.
you feel any guilt about that? Would you talk to your sister like that? Would you talk to a child like that? And
Right.
that simple exercise, for me, oh, I cried. I did that 2 or 3 times, and I cried. My wife sent me a text message and she was like, "What are you up to?" And I sent her a selfie of me just like ugly crying. And I had to explain to her when she got home what was going
Yeah.
on. And I was like, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was so awful to myself. And like
Right.
anything that we talked about, you can't address something until you're aware that it exists.
That's right.
And that's
Yeah.
the hardest part, is looking in and recognizing that the stuff that makes you uncomfortable does exist, and you can blame the outside world as much as you'd like, but most of
Mm,
it comes from your interpretation, your narrative, as it were, the story that you're telling
beautiful.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly, that technique, that's from Gestalt therapy and it's called the two-chair technique. So I just love, like, I hope people get that Adam just knows all this instinctively. Like, you're brilliant on a humanistic level. And
Thank you.
yeah, the coaching room has room for tears. I mean, I've sat with clients and they're, part, I think one of my interests, which I won't bring up now, but because of my life experience, grief, I'm very at home with it and I'm
Mm.
very honored to sit with it. And that one, you say, well, how can you coach grief? Well, you can. And it's the same thing. Sometimes grieving people, like somebody with ADD, needs a space just to voice what's happening for them
Mm.
that they really maybe can't share with friends and family. A friend to me the other day said something about another friend that lost her husband 12 years ago, made the comment, she needs to move on. I know. I was like, oh, that's not true. She doesn't, and she's grieving, and it's individual, and right?
And
So
I
yeah,
just
grief
like the
and
term move on.
ADD, depression, those things can come in the coaching room and we hold space for them and we can help move through them. Again, with a caveat, if they're really sticking, we need to maybe consider seeing a therapist or a doctor and putting it all together for you. And that's,
Mhm.
I hope, is okay.
Yeah. And I love what you just said, is holding space. And for me, what I didn't recognize when we first started doing the coaching, holding space inherently means silence. And I was not comfortable with silence. I'm still not
Uh,
comfortable with silence over the phone, but if I can see somebody and they're
right,
going through something, if I ask a question in a regular conversation I'm having with friends or family and there's a pause, I'm naturally inclined to fill in that gap with a
right.
story or an anecdote or a joke. But as a coach, there is a comfort in silence. If I ask a question, then you get time to answer it, and it doesn't matter how much time it takes. And same, I've had some people come in that are dealing with grief, and they cry, and I
Mm,
don't say anything. You just let them
yeah,
cry. Some people have a hard time crying on their own, but if they feel safe enough with you to cry, let them cry. That's that's one of the most wonderful things. That's for me, anyways. That's one of the nicest things that anybody could ever um, reflect back. Is that I created a space that was safer than they were able to create for themselves, and the freedom
beautiful.
to
Yeah,
just feel and just be there. If you're mad, be mad. If you're sad, be sad. Especially when it comes to grief, whatever. There is no right or wrong way to grieve
absolutely not.
in any situation, uh, and that I agree. There is counseling. I would imagine as a therapist, there isn't an answer and there isn't a specific way forward. So
No,
what we can hope as a coach is like, how do you get to the end of the session and like you say like, how do you feel? And if their answer is lighter, then you had a wonderful session.
that's right. Absolutely. Sort of redefining success, right? And um, yeah, but you know what I'm noticing, Adam? We're getting near the end of our time.
We are.
And you set out an enormous mandate at the beginning of this session. I loved it, and I think that we need to touch again and again. You asked kind of my take about neurodivergence, ADD, ADHD in particular, and I think that it's an evolving thing, right? Absolutely. I've got a far different idea of it now through my work with it, and also my own symptoms, which we've shared a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so I think we need to return to this topic, but how do you feel about, did we cover most things today, or did we go on too many tangents? Folks, if you don't like tangents, don't listen, please.
Yeah, we apologize in advance. We try to
We
stick to one
apologize
subject,
in
but
advance. Yeah.
uh, this is how we got into this. Is that we can have a 3 hour conversation and feel like it's 10 minutes.
Yes.
I think we touched on a lot. I think we touched
Okay.
on um, how it affects kids, why it's
Right.
something you should look out for when it comes to addiction,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the understanding of why that comes, and also why it's important to get diagnosed. The
Yeah.
longer you wait, the more self-medication you are going to do. Uh,
Absolutely.
we touched on a little bit of the neurological, about how we put our thoughts into other people. We talked a little bit about um, potential. So so I think we wandered past the original surface of
Okay.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's all kinds of stuff that you and I are going to talk about that's going to it's a huge part of my brain. And so I think it's going to be a consistent thing that comes up is like, as
Absolutely.
somebody with ADHD, this is how I feel. Uh, and as a fun take, you and I, we also have a list of things we're gonna talk about psilocybin, and how that affects people, and we're gonna talk about what a measure of success is, and we're gonna talk about what a community versus a family is. We're gonna talk
Yes.
about a lot of social aspects, and I'm excited. I'm excited for literally every single one. The hardest part is going to be able to keep us on track in time. And so I do want to ask you a question before we wrap this up,
Okay.
and it's one of my favorites. Uh, if this conversation were a book,
Hmm.
what would the title of the book be?
Oh boy. If this particular conversation was a book, I would say, initially I want to say Adventures in Neurodivergency.
I dig that.
Um,
Your initial response is usually the best.
yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. There's a few things that come to mind. And it's a little bit trite, shining a light, right? When you discuss things and open them up and um, share as candidly and authentically as you do about it, it's got to be helpful to somebody.
Yeah, I, that's
Shining a light.
that's my deep hope. I hope people, find this as entertaining as you and I find each other. But deeper than that, I hope it helps. I hope somebody who's feeling a little lonely can hear this and realize that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Both Janetta and I are here. We don't know you, but we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you would like to talk to me, adamharlowcoaching.com is where you book some time. And Jeanette, how do we book some time with you?
Oh, you can find me at Zungatree Life Coach.
I love it. And this is fantastic because I didn't actually know that. So, uh, on that note, we'll sign off.
All right, Adam.
Everybody, you're amazing, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.